Hey there, friends and enemies, Joe here again, and today I want to go over the 5 cards I want to add to my collection the most from the upcoming Avatar The Last Airbender set in Magic the Gathering. And I've already done videos on the commons and uncommons I'm looking forward to, and we'll make one on the mythics and also the commanders I want to build later this week, so definitely check those out. Now keep in mind a couple things. First and foremost, I mostly play commander with a bit of draft format involved as well, so if you play other formats, maybe these cards won't be as good. I also haven't been playing for a very long time. I played a way long time ago back in the day, like Fallen Empires era, but I took a big break from Magic, and so I don't have the collection that a lot of other people have, so there might be some cards in here that I really want that don't really fit because you already have a better option. So just stuff to keep in mind. I do think this set overall is very good and much better than Spider-Man as a power-wise goes, but also thematically, there's a lot of very interesting cards. It just seems to fit Magic quite a bit better, and so because of that, I'm pretty excited. Now, I don't think this set is going to be Final Fantasy or anything like that, but I do think it's a very good set that has a lot of cards that people should be looking forward to. Now, starting off, I want to talk about Great Divide Guide. This is a 1 colorless and 1 green for a 2/3 human scout ally creature. Its ability is each land and ally you control has tap to add 1 mana of any color. Now, this could be very strong in a lot of different ways. It's easily removed, to be honest, as a 2/3, so it's not something that you'll be able to keep on the board all the time, but is a innocuous threat that could really spike your ability to cast big spells, especially in green, which has a lot of high value creatures, high value options. So that way you can not only tap your lands for any color if you're playing a Wooburg deck, or if you're playing a multicolored deck and struggling for mana, but also you can tap your allies. So especially if you have a deck where you are using allies, maybe making ally tokens, and you have a lot of them, this could scale very, very quickly. And I would only imagine that you'd be able to use this for like a turn or two if you are able to get a bunch of allies on the field or have a bunch of different lands of different colors to use for this. But I do think it's going to be one that could be pretty impactful pretty quickly. And so if you pull this out when you already have a bunch of allies on the table already, it could go crazy and you could get a bunch of mana to do some pretty wild things, I would imagine. So I do think this is one that is going to be pretty sought after overall as a nice addition to a lot of different decks, and it's very versatile. I think that's going to be the key to a lot of these cards. They're either going to have a really great singular purpose, or they're going to be versatile and be able to be played in a lot of different ways. And this is one that I personally think would be very, very versatile. Moving on, we have the Last Agni Kai. Now, this is a 1 colorless and a red for an instant spell. Target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. If the creature the opponent controls is dealt excess damage this way, add that much red mana. Now, the better part of this spell is the next one, which until end of turn, you don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. Where this is very important is with Firebending. There's a lot of really powerful Firebending spells that essentially allow you to get red mana, but that only lasts until you are able to, until the end of your combat phase when you've attacked with that creature. If you're able to carry this mana over, then you would be able to use it for like a sorcery or something like that. And I think that does change the power of this. Plus, with this instant, because it only costs 2 mana, you could definitely cast it very easily once you've earned some of that firebending mana as well. And so I think for this set specifically, if you're building a deck that really has not only creatures that you can fight with, but also if you're trying to spell sling quite a bit, this could be really, really nice. And also, I think could really swing the tide of a game if used properly. So I do think this is one of those spells that will specifically be great for this set because of the way firebending and some of the other rules work, but I also think there are some other options that combinations that would make this very, very useful. So that way you would have the mana, unspent mana for a lot longer, and then when it disappear in the middle of your turn, your combat phase. So I do think this is a card that I'm looking forward to trying out. And again, if you're building an avatar deck with red in it, you're likely going to want to have this somewhere in that deck. Next up, we are going to talk about Zhao the Moonslayer. Now, this is almost a must-add in mono red decks, in my opinion, and is kind of insane when you look at it. Now, it is a colorless and a red mana for a 2/2 human soldier legendary creature. Unfortunately, since it is legendary, you can only have one. It has menace, and the non-basic lands enter tapped. This is really detrimental to multicolor decks, which is why you might not want to run this in anything other than like a red deck, or maybe like a 2-color commander deck if that's what you're doing. But mono red, this looks very, very good. Now you can tap 7 mana to put a consequence counter on Zhao. As long as Zhao has a conqueror. As long as Zhao has a conqueror counter on him, non-basic lands are mountains. Now, this is interesting because 7 mana is a lot for that ability, right? But losing all other land types and abilities and having them tap for just red mana could absolutely be annoying to somebody who is not playing red in their deck. Now, you have to know, obviously, that you're not playing another mono red deck for this to be useful. But I guess if you're playing mono red, this doesn't really have a downside anyway. So just a really valuable card there, in my opinion. Yes, it's easily removed as a 2/2. It doesn't have indestructible or anything like that. It's going to be hard to keep around for a long time, most likely. But in the meantime, I do think this is the type of card that could be very valuable. Now, I've seen people compare it to Blood Moon, and that's a card that I feel like is more versatile because it's not as prone to creature removal. You can't, like, use a small damage spell to get rid of it or anything like that. So that's one that I think is very, very interesting. But I do think Zhao the Moonslayer could be extremely useful in mono red decks of a wide variety of formats. So that's definitely one to keep your eye out on. Next up, we have Avatar's Wrath. This is a 2 colorless, 2 white sorcery spell that says choose up to 1 target creature, then airbend all other creature. So you exile them while each one is exiled, and its owner may cast it for 2 colorless rather than its mana cost. Now, the next part is where it gets crazy. Until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. And then at the end, you exile Avatar's Wrath. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's a board wipe that if you have enough mana, or if you're able to generate enough mana, you could board wipe the enemies, but really keep several of your own creatures back on the battlefield, or return them to the battlefield from exile. So if you have a deck that has a lot of enter the battlefield activity or abilities, if you have a deck that has some pretty powerful creatures that you can pull out and be able to attack without really necessarily worrying about them, keep in mind again that they're going to be exiled and then come back, so you might not be able to attack right away with them, depending, because this is a sorcery once again. So that's something that you're going to have to remember. But I do think this is one of those spells that can really turn the tide and be almost a one-sided removal. And again, you will have to have a lot of mana in order to bring back as many creatures as you want. But there are ways to kind of lower that cost as well. And then I think in general, if you have the ability to generate 8 mana, keeping 2 creatures that are your best 2 while everyone else loses all of theirs, and if they're using a deck that also casts spells from exile, they won't be able to do that. So I think this could be an absolute win of a card, and it's very, very strong in my opinion. Maybe not the best card in every situation, but there are certain circumstances where I think this could be very, very good. Now at number 1, this is probably the card that I'm going to add right away to a lot of my decks if I'm able to snag it, and that is Firebending Student. This is a 1/2 creature that costs 1 colorless and a red. It has prowess, so whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1. Now, it also has Firebending X, where X is this creature's power. So as a 1/2, that's not too insane. However, there is so many ways to buff its power. You could use this in a spell slinger deck, right? You cast multiple cantrips in a single turn. Now all of a sudden it's getting 3 or 4 mana, and then you're able to cast more cantrips, and it can just escalate from there. Not only that, but you can also buff it up in a wide variety of ways. If you're playing a green deck, red-green, you can toss in some giant growth type options. And if you're playing with equipment, which red oftentimes does, you can toss on some equipment to this and really beef it up in order to attack and generate a bunch of red mana. So this is a combination of a card that I think could work extremely well in a wide variety of ways. It is one that I would add to a lot of my red decks, quite frankly, just because of how versatile I think it can be. Now, is it the best card in the set? I don't think so. I think there are other options, but I do think it's one that, for its cheap cost, for its abilities, could be very good in a wide variety of formats as well, which I think makes it really, really good. Plus, it's not a legendary creature, so you can have 4 of them if you're playing standard or one of those other game types. And so I think there's a lot of reasons why this one could be very, very good. Overall, again, the set is extremely well done as far as power-wise. There's a lot of very interesting, very strong cards. So I'm really looking forward to getting hands-on with this. This was a set I was less excited about originally when it was first revealed compared to Spider-Man, and boy, was I wrong. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like the video as always, comment, subscribe. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.